Welcome all. A very good evening to all. This program is from on behalf of Maha IP and Women's Committee Maha IP. Myself, Dr. Sonali Shirbhate from Amravati. Welcome you all, Maha IP executives, Women's Committee executives, all the CIP members, all delegates, all speakers, and respected judges. Welcome all. The specialty of today's Tuesday text of this fourth session is vaccination. Let us get some the doses of vaccination to all of us about the information of vaccines, and the specialty of today's Tuesday text program is we have one MMC credit point. So don't, dear all delegates, don't forget to write your CIP number as well as your MMC number in the chat box, and also subscribes our Maha AP YouTube channel. In this fourth session of Tuesday Takes, our Bon Voyage journey has reached here in the May. So, eminent judges in vaccination field and efficient speakers from different parts of Maharashtra like Aurangabad, Nashik, Usmanabad, etc. We had brought all the speakers for all of you. So, I welcome you all. President Dr. Gangolia sir, Secretary Dr. Amol Pawar sir, Women's Committee Chairperson Dr. Renu Buralkar Madam, respected judges Dr. Sanjay Marathe sir from Nagpur, Dr. Jayant Joshi sir from Pune, as well as all the dear speakers. I welcome you all. I welcome all the delegates, as well as I welcome Dr. Manjusha Sherkar Madam from Aurangabad for as my co-host. She is also a zonal member of Women's Maha IP Committee. So now, moving further in this session, I would like to welcome our President, Dr. Gangolia sir, for his presidential address. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, madam. Good evening and namaste to all the respected experts, distinguished speakers, Maha IP office bearers, all respected dignitaries on the Zoom dais, as well as hearty congratulations to Maha IAP Women Committee to organize this Tuesday Takes under the leadership of co-chairperson Dr. Renu Boralkar Madam and co-chairperson Dr. Sonali Madam. As well, all the viewers on the Maha IP YouTube channel. It's humble request to subscribe the Maha IP YouTube channel, as well as spread the message all over. And we do have all the recorded sessions of the previous sessions also. Welcome to this fourth session. The topic is very unique, immunization or vaccination, which is probably every pediatrician does at his clinic, and probably in coming days, more and more vaccines are shifting to government setup. So we are left now with less of the vaccines and probably less of the things to do vaccine. But still they come to us. And we thought during COVID time, probably COVID vaccine will come to our clinics and we will be able that. But that also didn't came. But anyway, the COVID vaccination, everything, all information of the vaccination is there today itself. And I wish all the best to all the speakers, and I'm sure it will be a great session to everyone. And each session, I feel it's a learning one, and wish you each one a happy learning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Very well said, sir, because maximum vaccines are taken now by government. So let us know much more about in this session about the setup of vaccination clinic, the principles of vaccination, and all the details of vaccination. Our secretary, Dr. Amol Pawar sir, is busy in some another program. So let's move forward. I would like to hand over to my co-host, Dr. Manju Sherkar Madam, for further proceedings.
Good evening, one and all, respected dignitaries and dear delegates. Thanks, Sonali. In the flow of continuation, without wasting much time, let us start with the section. Let me take a privilege to introduce our first judge. First judge will take 3 talks and his comment. Then second session, there will be 3 talks and then judges comment. So our first judge is Dr. Sanjay Marathe sir. Sir is a well-known figure. Sir is ACVI West Zone member for year 2022. Sir is a director of Colors Pediatric and Neonatal Intensive Care Unit at Nagpur. He was a president of IAP Nagpur 2005. Sir was a president state NNF 2019 and 2011. He was organizing secretary of Pedicon 2018 and he is a guest speaker of various state and national conferences. Welcome you, sir. Maha-IAP Women's Wing welcomes you, sir, very well.
Thank you. Thank you.
I invite now first speaker, Dr. Sachin Dhule for Aurangabad. Dr. Sachin has done his MD, DNB and fellowship in neonatology. At present, he is working as an assistant professor at MGM Medical College, Aurangabad, and he is a director of Shubham Hospital and Critical Care Unit. His topic is Principles of Immunization. Time is 5 minutes, and over to you, Sachin, now. Let's start. Share your screen and start.
Sachin, please start.
Sachin is unmute, I think so.
Please unmute, Sachin. Please unmute.
Yes.
Okay, yes. So let's start our discussion with the definition of immunity. Immunity is the ability to avoid or not to get affected by the infectious organism. And immunity is of two types. It is a passive immunity or it can be an active immunity. Passive immunity is developed by, is get by just by the administration of antibody containing the preparations. And we can get it from the naturally that, for example, that newborn gets the IgA antibodies from the mother's milk, but it can be artificial. We already see that the we have seen that convalescent COVID sera is transmitted to the COVID-19 positive patients for the getting the passive immunity. That active immunity, it can be also of two types. It can be get from the natural infection, or it can be we can get the active immunity by the direct vaccinations. So this passive immunity can be administered by the intramuscular route. It can be administered by the intravenous route, or it can be given by the subcutaneously. And routinely we are using the intravenous route. And it is that antibodies can also be developed from the hyperimmune animal antisera that we are routinely doing from the horse antisera. And the examples are the diphtheria antitoxin, and we also see the botulinum antitoxins. Next is the example of the passive immunity is the monoclonal antibodies. Monoclonal antibodies are the antibodies made against the specific antigens. For example, we are already using the palivizumab for the treatment of respiratory syncytial virus in the patients with infants with prematurity with chronic lung disease. And that monoclonal palivizumab is a monoclonal antibody is against the protein F of the respiratory syncytial virus. We already see the maternal antibodies. Let's move to the active immunity. Active immunity, it can be formed from the natural infection, or we can get the active immunity routinely. We are vaccinating the children, and that vaccines are defined as whole or a part of microorganism administered to prevent an infectious disease. That vaccine contains antigen. That antigen can be a whole and inactivated microorganism. For example, we are using the polio vaccine, that is a whole inactivated microorganism, or sometimes we are using the part of the organisms. For example, we are using acellular pertussis vaccine. Sometimes we are using only the capsule, polysaccharide capsules. For example, typhoid polysaccharide capsule. Sometimes we are adding protein to that capsule, and that is the conjugation of that capsule to increase the immunity and to increase the duration of the immune response. For example, we are using the pneumococcal conjugated vaccine. Sometimes we are using live microorganisms, like in the smallpox vaccine, we were using live microorganism without attenuation. And nowadays we are using live attenuated microorganism. Attenuated means we are that potential to form the disease is weakened or destroyed. And we are using live attenuated vaccines like MMR vaccines. Toxoids are the toxins, but they are non-toxic, but they have the ability to mount the immune response. We are using the tetanus toxoid or diphtheria toxoids to give the vaccines. And nowadays we are using recombinant DNA technologies, and we are using mixed vaccines like Pentavax, or hepatitis B is the recombinant vaccines. Once we inject these vaccines, we will get the immune response. Immune response are the two types. First is the primary immune response, and secondary immune response. When the bodies get contact with the antigen, there is a formation of primary immune response. But this primary immune response is the smaller one, lasts for smaller duration. Antibody titer is smaller, and it is slower one. But the most important part of the primary immune response is the formation of the memory cells. Once that there is a second exposure of the antigen, or we are giving the booster dose, there is a sudden rise in antibody titer that is a faster, larger, and that antibody titer lasts for longer durations. So these are the two immune response. And once we get this immune response in the community, we get the herd immunity. And that herd immunity is it is defined as the resistance to the disease transmission in the certain population, and that resistance can be due to the natural disease, or it can be due to the vaccinations. We can see that in first half of the slide, where we can see that there is no herd immunity, and the susceptible peoples are directly peoples are directly in contact with the infected peoples. But whenever we get the herd immunity, that all the susceptibles are separated from the infected peoples by these immune peoples. So herd immunity protects all these susceptible peoples from the infected peoples. And herd immunity finally leads is achieved by the higher immunization coverage. And this higher immunization coverage reduces the spread of disease, and to the certain weaker strata of the society. Weaker strata means that some of the age groups, like infants, for example, we are still not giving the COVID vaccination to the infants. Some of the medical conditions, suppose HIV/AIDS, or some of the medical conditions in which some of the vaccines are contraindicated, and certain conditions are there in which we are giving vaccine, but that patient is not mount that adequate immune response. So in this condition, this higher immunization coverage, higher herd immunity will protect them from the certain disease conditions. So this herd immunity and higher immunization coverage protects our society, and we have achieved all these things in COVID in India. And so due to this higher immunization coverage, we can say that my mask is not on the inside. It's called an immune system. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Dr. Sachin, for that wonderful presentation, and you're really just in time, 5 minutes. Thank you so much. Indeed, immunity is important topic. Let us have an expert opinion. Sachin, you can stop your screen share.
Let me first start with, congratulations, Sachin, for doing an excellent job.
Thank
You
you,
have
sir.
really presented such a big topic in 5 minutes. I think it is worth appreciating.
Thank you, sir.
I should congratulate Dr. Manjusha, Dr. Renu, and Dr. Sonali. The girls wing, don't say ladies wing. Girls wing from Maharashtra IP, and Dr. Amol and Dr. Gangolia, for taking up such an important issue and involving my young friends in this kind of a seminar. Not only it will boost their confidence, they will get chance to present themselves in this platform. And I'm sure after 5 years, 7 years, we'll have Sachin as the chief guest, or Sachin as the advisor here, and somebody else will be a speaker. So well done, Sachin. He has covered almost everything. I would like to extend it because I know the audience is not the immunologist or vaccinologist. The audience is basically the private practitioners. So I will try to be at that level, try to explain it. The very good example, what he says, the higher vaccination coverage, I can tell you the PCV vaccine. If the PCV vaccine is introduced in our NIP, I'm sure the infection related to pneumococcal infection will come down like anything. And the best example is America. In America, every child gets the PCV vaccine to the extent that the adults who are likely to get infection, the incidence has gone down so less that they have stopped giving pneumococcal conjugate vaccine to the adults because everybody is protected. So now they are giving this only the pneumococcal 23 vaccine. So that kind of an impact that nation has got. Now, just to understand what is immunity and immune system, just to give you an example, your immune system is like your National Defense Academy or NCC, where army people are trained to fight against the infection. Could be virus, could be bacteria, could be even the malignant cell. And what is your immunity? Immunity is your military. They're already trained people. They know where to attack, how to attack, where not to attack also. So that is your immunity. So if you have a strong immunity, you can protect yourself against any infection. Now the part of the antigen which combines to the part of the antibody, the part of the antigen is called as epitope, which attaches to the part of the antibody, which is called as paratope. It is like plug and socket phenomenon. And why it is important in COVID vaccine, we have seen the spike protein acts as a epitope and the ACE2 in receptor acts as a paratope. And they combine to form a antigen antibody complex and thus inhibit the entry of the antigen inside the cell. That is what is required. Or the antibodies which are formed will bind to the spike protein and will not allow the antigen to go inside the cell and cause disease. That is the principle. Now there are two types of immunity. One is innate immunity and second is adaptive immunity. Innate immunity is all what we have, natural immunity. Adaptive immunity is what we develop in our body. We should know about B cells and T cells. They are integral part of immunity. The B cells are responsible for producing plasma cells producing immunoglobulins, which gives you humoral immunity. The T cells on activation CD4, CD8, they are responsible for cell-mediated immunity. Both are equally important. And if I tell you what happens if there is an entry of the antigen, whether it is any infection or what the vaccine we have given, it is taken up by the antigen presenting cells in the periphery or B lymphocytes. They are activated. They will go to an imaginary germinal center in the lymph node. If you have a polysaccharide antigen, it stimulates only the marginal zone. Therefore, there are no memory cells. T cells are not activated. If you have a protein antigen, a germinal center is activated. The T cells are activated. Once these T cells are activated, you will get robust antibody response, activated B lymphocytes, more plasma cells, more immunoglobulins. So protein antigen is always preferred over a polysaccharide antigen. Best example is typhoid polysaccharide vaccine, which is now we have already put into dustbin against a typhoid conjugate vaccine, which has got a protein attached to the polysaccharide. Clear? That is what. The T cells can kill the cells directly by release of the interleukins, cytokines. The CD8 cells have property of releasing substance called as perforin. And perforin helps in invading the cell which has been infected by the virus. So it will not only kill the cell, but will also kill the virus which is inside the cell. And therefore, the cell-mediated immunity can kill the intracellular organism. That is very important. Now, what are the antigen-presenting cells? This could be a dendritic cells which is available in abundance. Could be B lymphocyte, could be a macrophage, which is abundantly present at skin, at subcutaneous level, in muscle, also in the lining epithelium of the respiratory tract and the GI tract. So as soon as the antigen tries to make an entry, either through the skin or through the GI or respiratory tract, these cells will act like a policeman. They will immediately go, will attack it, will try to take it up, will engulf by phagocytosis, and will take this antigen to lymph node to take care of this antigen. And the same way the vaccine also is, when we introduce the vaccine antigen, it is taken up to a lymph node. Then in the lymph node, it stimulates the germinal center, produces immunoglobulins, and if there is an activation of the T cell, cell-mediated immunity. This is basically the basics of immunology. If you understand this, I am sure rest of the things will be very easy. Okay? And Sachin has already discussed about the primary and secondary immune response. Excellent. So all boosters are acting like a secondary immune response, and all what we give as a primary vaccination acts as a primary response. Well done, Sachin. Next.
Thank you, Dr. Marathi, sir, for that excellent value additions. We are indeed privileged to have a ACVIP member for our
Always a
discussion
pleasure.
as a judge. So we are really thankful. Indeed, immunity, like immunization is one of the most effective preventive measure which is helpful for reduction of under 5 deaths in the
Absolutely.
country. So we must
Yeah.
increase the rate of immunization in the country. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sachin, for excellent presentation. Let us move to the next bogie. I invite second speaker, Dr. Namdev Birazdar, for his talk on very important cold chain maintenance. Dr. Birazdar is a practicing pediatrician from Umarga district, Usmanabad. Over to you, Dr. Namdev.
Thank you, madam. Good evening, everyone. I am going to talk on cold chain maintenance.
Please do double click.
Slide is not moving.
Double click.
तुम्ही स्क्रीनवरती ना कर्सरने टॅप करा आणि मग
Double
move
click.
होईल.
Double
टॅप
click.
करा, एकदा टॅप करा. कर्सरने टॅप करा स्क्रीनवर.
Okay, madam.
Yes.
First, see the definition of the cold chain. Cold chain is a system of storing and transporting vaccine at the recommended temperature range from the point of manufacture to the point of use. Cold chain is also known as immunization supply chain. It is a backbone or lifeline of any immunization program. What is important for maintaining of the cold chain? Vaccine and toxoids are the biological product. They are easily destroyed when they are exposed to the heat or sunlight. Some vaccines are the freeze sensitive. When they are freeze, they lost the potency of the vaccine immediately. So what is important to maintain the potency of the vaccine? If use of the ineffective vaccine leads to the vaccine failure, which leads to the reemergence of the vaccine preventable diseases. Vaccine are the expensive and such a loss leads to the waste of the resources. Loss of the vaccine leads to the short supply of the vaccine, which leads to the loss of the opportunity to immunize the child. These are the equipment for the cold chain maintenance. Actually, I am concentrated on the 3 equipment. Those are important to practicing pediatrician. That is the ice-line refrigerator, domestic refrigerator, and purpose-built vaccine refrigerator. First, see the ice-line refrigerator. This is ideal equipment to store the vaccine. This is a refrigerator have top doors, and inside the ILR wall there is a fitting of the ice tubes and the ice pack. During the working of the ILR, these ice tube or ice packs are freezed, and during the electricity failure or the opening of the door, they stabilize the temperature in the ILR. The ILR maintain the temperature between 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. ILR provided the baskets to put the vaccine. For some freeze-sensitive vaccine, you have to put at the top of the ILR in the basket, like hepatitis B vaccine, DT, DPT, injectable polio vaccine, pneumococcal, typhoid, and TT vaccine. Heat-sensitive vaccines. These are the live vaccines, that is measles, MMR, BCG, rotavirus, Japanese encephalitis. We have to put the bottom of the ILR in the basket. Place the thermometer in the basket to monitor the temperature. Alcor thermometer is ideal for the ILR. In the ILR, you should keep the vaccine up to 1 month. This is domestic. Then goes to the, let's see the domestic refrigerator. Domestic refrigerator is the equipment which are commonly or majority used by the private practitioner in the private clinic and dispensaries. Actually, domestic refrigerator ideally designed to store the fruit, vegetables, drinks, and foods. It is not ideally designed to store the vaccines. What is drawbacks of the domestic refrigerator? Temperature varies significantly every time when the door is open. Temperature rising during the defrosting cycle, which leads to the decrease the potency of the vaccine. Cabinet temperature, inside temperature of the refrigerator easily affected by the external, that is ambient temperature. Temperature setting using the refrigerator by the dial knob, it is a very crude and inaccurate method. Then there is no alternative. Then you have to put the vaccine in the domestic refrigerator. You use the refrigerator here having two separate door refrigerator, one for the freezing compartment and one for the refrigerator compartment. The refrigerator available in the two forms, that is frost-free refrigerator and defrosting refrigerator. But in defrosting refrigerator, there is defrosting, cyclic defrosting increases the significant temperature, which causes the decrease the potency of the vaccines. And frost-free refrigerator gives only low level of the warming cycle, which does not increase the significant temperature in the refrigerator. That you use the refrigerator doors and two separate doors with the frost-free refrigerator. Placement, where to put the refrigerator? Refrigerator should be placed away from the direct exposure to the sunlight and heat. Minimize the unnecessary opening of the door, and refrigerator temperature should be stabilized before storing the vaccine. You don't keep the other food, drinks, and vegetables in the refrigerator. Don't keep the vaccine in the compartment door and freezing compartment and baskets in the refrigerator. Do not unplug, label at the switch button. Monitor the internal temperature with digital dial thermometer. Increase cool mass. We have to put the cold bottles to increase the cool mass. During the electrical failure or the opening of the door, these stabilize the temperature inside the refrigerator. The ideally storage of the method of the vaccine refrigerator. Store the vaccine in the plastic label container or in the basket. Do not crowd the vaccine. Keep some distance between two vaccines to circulate the airs. They place the vaccine which are the live attenuated, that are measles, MMR, BCG, OPV in the upper compartment. Put the pre-sensitive vaccine, that is DT, DPT, Pentavac, hepatitis B virus, Pentavac in the middle and lower compartment of the vaccine. We can put the vaccine in the refrigerator till 4 hours safe during the electrical failure. If there is electrical failure more than 4 hours, then ship the vaccines in the another storage source. If the another storage source is not available, then put the vaccine in the cold bags with ice packs. You have to keep the vaccine up to 96 hours safe. Then this is the purpose-built vaccine refrigerator. This is ideal refrigerator to use the vaccine. It is designed to put the vaccine. It is having program to maintain the temperature between 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. Cabinet temperature of this PBVR is not affected by the ambient temperature. Defrost cycle doesn't increase the temperature inside the refrigerator. Even distribution temperature in all the compartment. Have the external display showing the internal temperature of the refrigerator. Good temperature recovery if door open and then close. So PBVR is the ideal refrigerator to put the vaccine. The cost of the purpose-built vaccine refrigerator is only 50 to 60,000. The take-home message: don't use domestic refrigerator. If you have to use domestic refrigerator, then use the 2-door separate refrigerator with frost-free refrigerator. Cost is around 20 to 25,000 rupees only. ILR use only there is a turnover is more, or there is a electrical failure more than 8 to 10 hours. Then use the ILR. Cost of ILR is 1 to 1.5 lakhs rupees. And thank you, madam.
Yes, sir, madam.
Thanks, Dr. Birazdar, for that detailed practical tips, and you are very crisp in presentation. Very nice practical tips. Indeed, use vaccine means you have to maintain the cold chain. Otherwise, vaccination doesn't have any meaning. I invite expert comments for Dr. Marathi, sir.
Let me first congratulate Birazdar for his excellent presentation. I pick up one sentence which is very, very important to all of us. Go for purpose-built vaccine refrigerator, which is the most ideal. And do not keep anything in the refrigerator, whether it is domestic or purpose-built, any other thing rather than vaccines. Don't keep your lunch box, don't keep your drinking bottles, don't keep your Coca-Cola bottles. That is going to damage all the vaccines which you are keeping. I personally feel the cold chain is like a lifeline and the most important integral part of the successful immunization program. I think the cold chain is a misnomer. Why I'm saying? It should be optimum temperature maintenance chain. The moment I said cold chain, I get the wrong feeling that all vaccines are very safe in the cold temperature. And if there is an electricity failure, I will keep all my vaccines in the deep freeze. Because cold is good, because the name is cold chain. So this should be made very clear to everybody that certain vaccines are heat sensitive, certain vaccines are freeze sensitive, certain vaccines are light sensitive. And you have to maintain, keep in mind, all the vaccines can be safely kept at the temperature 2 to 8 degrees. Don't think that cold is better, because I tell you, whether exposed to cold or exposed to heat, once the potency is lost, if it is exposed to cold, cannot be restored. But if it is exposed to heat, still can be used. I give you a simple example. You keep your OPV vial outside your refrigerator for 1 hour and see what the VVM says. There is slight change in the color, but still you can use OPV. You keep your DPT vial in the freezer 1 hour and your DPT vial has gone. Not only the potency has lost, you can get more toxicity. So cold chain should be ideally set optimum temperature maintenance chain. Is it clear? So what is more dangerous? Exposure to cold is more dangerous as compared to exposure to heat. So always keep in mind. He has rightly said simple principle. These vaccines which are heat sensitive should be closer to the cold compartment. So if I'm using purpose-built vaccine refrigerator, which is available for about say 30,000-40,000 rupees, you do not have to bother. The complete inner compartment is maintained at a particular temperature which I desire. I can set the temperature. There is a constant display. The ambient temperature is not going to affect the internal temperature. I know what is happening inside because there is a transparent glass outside. The third important thing, I can set the lower and the upper temperature alarm system. So as soon as it is crossing that, there will be an alarm. So there are so many advantages of using a purpose-built vaccine refrigerator. If it is not available, go for a double door, frost-free domestic refrigerator. 2-3 things you should always keep in mind. Preferably use a new refrigerator, not more than 5 years old. Snugly fitting door. Don't keep any vaccine in the door, a freezer compartment or a chiller compartment. You should increase the cold mass, which Dr. Birajdar has very rightly said. You can keep the packs at the freezer compartment and the non-drinkable water bottles in the door as well as at the base. So in case of an electric failure, which is very common nowadays, for 4 hours, just keep the door closed. All your vaccines are safe. ILR is excellent storage vaccine refrigerator. The only problem is it is very huge. Dr. Kasi sir was telling me that in Bangalore they are getting ILR smaller size. Because the difficult part with the ILR, the coldest temperature is at the bottom. So suppose I have to keep the live vaccines, I have to go at the bottom. So every time when I have to take out, and all IRL will have top opening. So I have to top lid opening. So I will have to open it like this, take out the OPV valve from there, again put. So little cumbersome. But I said the first choice should be purpose-built vaccine refrigerator. The second will be ILR. The third will be a double door domestic refrigerator. If you have that, then I think I'm sure you will be having a very well maintenance of the cold chain. Your vaccine will not be wasted. The child will get the same vaccine of same potency. If you do not maintain the cold chain, you will not get the desired effect. If you will not get the desired effect, see the implication at the national level. What vaccine efficacy we quote, we will have 50% of the vaccine efficacy and our immunization program will fail. People will have no faith. Suppose you have given 2 doses of chickenpox and all of them are getting chickenpox, they will start doubting your vaccine. And I repeat, there is no other intervention than giving the vaccine which can either eradicate or control the infection in the way no medicine can do it, and COVID is the best example. All we are here sitting, survived 2 years of COVID only because of the vaccine and some SMS. So well done, Berazdar. I think, should I talk about the VVM or I will talk about the VVM in the next time? The VVM is also very important. Should I continue VVM here only?
Continue. Continue.
Okay. The diluents can be kept outside, but ensure that if you are using diluent, then it should be kept at least for 24 hours inside the refrigerator before using it. My suggestion, now all the diluents are coming along with the vaccine, so keep it there. Don't take it out, diluents, and keep it separate. VVM is an excellent way of monitoring the cumulative exposure to the heat. And this vaccine vial monitor you have seen on an OPV vial. There is an inner square surrounded by a circle. Inner square has diacetylene, which is colorless substance. When it is exposed to the heat, the color changes. When the inner circle color, the inner square color changes, and it is same as the outer circle, that is the point to discard the OPV vaccine. That means it has only polymerized. Diacetylene has been polymerized to polyethylene. And now that's a cumulative heat toxicity. After that, you cannot use the polio vaccine. This VVM starts right from the manufacturing end till the end user. So VVM should be there for all the vaccines. Then you will see VVM 2, VVM 7, VVM 15, VVM 30. That means the vaccines which are very heat sensitive, like OPV, might have VVM 2. Means within 2 days, if the vial is kept outside at 37 degrees, it should be discarded. That the color will match with the outer circle. The VVM 30 is usually with the Rotaris of Serum Institute, quite stable. So even if the Rotaris is kept outside at 37 degrees for 30 days, still you can use that. That is the importance of knowing what is VVM 2, 7, 14 and 30. So always before giving the OPV or any other vaccine, if there is a vaccine vial monitor, ensure that the inner square is lighter than the outer circle. I think if we all follow this, we will be using a very well maintained vaccine, which is having the same vaccine efficacy, which has been claimed by the manufacturer. Well done, Berazdar. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, sir, for those actually practical enlightening points. That makes the vaccination really effective, I feel. In the transport also, we have to be really careful for the temperature to increase the efficacy of vaccination. Excellent, sir. Very nice. We are really privileged. Let's
Manju,
the
1 minute. Manju,
Madam?
1 minute. Yes, I would like to interfere in between. Dr. Renu Boralkar, I am here. I would like to welcome our MNC observers of today, Dr. Sanjay Aher sir, who is the neonatologist from Nashik, and Dr. Rajendra Kulkarni, senior pediatrician from Nashik. Sir, can you unmute yourself and unmute your video, please? Dr. Aher sir.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Dr. Sanjay Aher. And
Yes, sir, welcome.
good evening, sir. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, I wish you all the best for this CME. Very nice scientific discussion is going on. So carry on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Dr. Rajendra Kulkarni, sir, please give us blessings. Yeah.
Hello, good evening. I congratulate my IP for conducting such an important, practically oriented CME, and we are really happy to grant the credit hour for this CME.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Welcome.
Keep it up. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
over to you, Manjusha. Sorry for the interruption.
Yes, yes.
Before
Thank you,
Dr.
Renu.
Before Dr. Manjusha, you proceed, only one more question because he
Yes.
has covered so much nicely, Dr. Marathi sir. When we order vaccine and the vaccine boy who comes, what is the mode of transport? Because they usually bring in the box with the ice packs. Is that right, or do you suggest anything? Whether they're, and also at the vaccine store, whether they really follow or they, because I have seen that it is lying outside and kept in the stock, cold chain. So what say you have about it, sir?
It's very difficult to find it out what they are doing, but what is expected out of them, I can tell you. See, always order the vaccine from the stockist. Don't purchase the vaccine from the medical shops. Because medical shops refrigerator are multi-purpose refrigerator. you will see antibiotics, you will see Pepsi Cola there, you will see some diluents, you will see some vaccine. I have seen MMR given as if he's giving a Cadbury. And that patient brought that MMR injection without ice pack, anything. I said, you please go and return it. And then I crossed out that MMR. Should never be used again. Otherwise, he will sell it to some other person. So my single policy, at least we should trust our stockist, because they have got cold boxes where temperature can be maintained up to -18. And the distance between the stockist and your clinic should not be far off. Usually they should bring the vaccine in the cold boxes. Cold boxes can have and hold over time for 8 hours, 10 hours. And he should not just go on to different people and supplying the vaccine. He should go supply to a one pediatrician, go back, again take it. So if you are strict, then it is possible. So I'm very strict with my stockist. I said, when I order and usually don't ask for two vials like this. At least you can ask for 10, 15, 20, so that he can send a separate boy for your vaccine. And we have to believe in them that they're maintaining the cold chain. And that is all, because we cannot go and check their storage of, but then they are supposed to.
A very important message.
I will tell you one example.
Yes.
Your VVM of polio tells you everything. If he is not maintaining the cold chain, the VVM will show the change in color. That means he is not maintaining it properly. So return it.
So very important message. And although we see practically a man distributing vaccine from each one clinic to another, so that is a sad part. That
should be our.
And secondly, what you said, distance. So what distance, what time of hours from stockist to clinic should be? Distance.
15 minutes. He should reach in 15 minutes.
Distance.
A couple of kilometers, you can say.
So that is not happening probably, but okay, that's a part. Okay.
But if he is transporting in the cold boxes, I'm not worried.
Because this I have spoken because of this peripheral limited settings. Absolutely. And we have this problem.
So ask them to transfer the vaccine in the cold box.
Yes.
They have cold boxes with them. Ask them to send your vaccines in the cold box. So your vaccine is maintained at the proper.
Yes.
And one more practical thing, sir, we must discourage the patients bringing vaccine. Many times if they are related to medical service, they said we will give. So we must totally 100%, we must discourage that practice.
And you can take a signature. You can take a signature of the patient brought from outside at my own risk.
Rather than patient, they are the MRs or the doctors who will say, I am bringing the vaccine.
So ask them to give the same discount at the stockist level.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thanks, respected judges and all speakers. Let's move to the next talk. I invite our third speaker, Dr. Shrikant Zamdade from Mumbai, Konkan area. Dr. Zamdade is an assistant professor at GS Medical College and KM Hospital, Mumbai. Topic given to him is very important topic, setup of ideal vaccination clinic. So over to you, Dr. Shrikant.
Thank you, Dr. Manjusha. Good evening, all delegates and dignitaries. I'll be discussing on setup of ideal vaccination clinic in next few minutes. Maintenance of cold chain at all levels and optimal storage of vaccine is the most crucial aspect of any immunization program. It safeguards the potency and efficacy of vaccines, and which ensures the desired effect of development of immunity and protection against diseases. Dr. Birazdar has already covered cold chain maintenance, and we have had a healthy discussion about it. And I'll be discussing briefly some important aspect of storage of vaccines at clinic level, some of which will be a repetition, but it is important. So as discussed, there are two types of refrigerators which are used for storing vaccines. One is purpose-built vaccine refrigerator, which is specifically designed to store vaccine, and it is an ideal equipment. It maintains the temperature between 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, and its temperature is not affected by ambient temperature, and the temperature is evenly distributed throughout the fridge. It has a display of temperature, and it has also a system for alarm if the temperature goes out of range. It is a very cost effective and valuable investment in long run, and is recommended to all the pediatricians. However, at most of the places in private practice, domestic refrigerator is used widely, although it is not an ideal for storage of vaccines, and it has many drawbacks. It has wide fluctuations with every door opening and defrosting cycle, and ambient temperature easily affects the temperature inside the fridge. However, if it is not possible to get a purpose-built vaccine refrigerator, it may be acceptable to store vaccine in domestic refrigerator, provided it has a separate freezer compartment, and the refrigerator compartment maintains the temperature between 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. And doors are in good condition and tightly fitting, and nothing else apart from vaccines is stored in the refrigerator. Some of the tips for using domestic refrigerators: it should be kept away from direct sunlight and heat. It should be away 6 inches away from the wall and floor on the stand. Door opening should be minimized. Accidental switch off should be prevented. And the temperature should be monitored with dial thermometer and other means of measuring temperatures. Digital data loggers are the systems which are available, which can record temperature for a long period of time, and very helpful in maintaining a chart. To increase the effectiveness and increase the cool mass, ice bottles, ice packs and gels can be kept in the fridge. And vaccines should not be crowded in the fridge, and there should be space for air circulation around the vaccines. Freeze tolerant vaccines should be kept on the top shelf. Freeze sensitive vaccines should be kept in the middle shelf. In case of power failure, generator backup or inverter backup should be arranged. If it is not available, vaccines can be stored in cool boxes in case of power failure. So this was a bit of revision, but it is very important. Moving on to next point. There should be an efficient vaccine management protocol. The staff should be trained for routine vaccination and routine vaccine storage and cold chain maintenance, and they should be sensitized for its importance. Vaccine inventory should be maintained well. First order vaccines should be dispensed first, and there should not be overstuffing of vaccines. Ideal setup of vaccine clinic site should look like something like this. There should be a waiting area comfortable for parents and caregivers to sit. There should be enough space for separate stations for registration, actual vaccination station, and for health education. There should be a separate entrance and exit. This type of setup prevents crowding and helps in preventing confusion and stress amongst the caregivers as well as the staff. It is important to communicate the vaccines and its side effects, adverse events, possible adverse events to the parents, and how to handle mild side effects, and how when to report the doctor. They should be talked about next vaccination visit, and health education can be done at vaccination visits and every opportunity should be taken for by the pediatrician to educate parents, and immunization clinic is one of the best opportunity. All the vaccinations should be documented properly. Before starting any immunization activity, one should be prepared for managing anaphylaxis. Following things should be kept ready: injection adrenaline loaded in syringe, ambu bag, face mask, laryngoscope, oxygen cylinder, pulse oximeter, setup for IV access. IV fluids should be kept ready. And all children should be observed for a few minutes after vaccination in the waiting area. Reporting AFI is part of ideal immunization practice, and AFI is an untoward medical occurrence which follows vaccination, immunization, and which does not necessarily have a causal relationship with the users of the vaccine. There are 3 types of AFI that are classified: serious, severe, and minor. Severe and serious AFI should be reported. In private clinics, it should be reported to district immunization officer. In government setup, it is reported to medical officer of PHC. Upon reporting, causality assessment is done at district AFI committee. Causality assessment of district AFI committee is a scientific way of arriving at a conclusion whether or not the vaccine was the cause of the adverse event. So my take-home message is, one must be prepared for managing anaphylaxis. Reporting AFI is beneficial to all, and maintenance of cold chain is most important. Take care of your cold chain like a gold chain. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Shrikant. Can you stop sharing screen?
Yeah.
Yes, indeed, that was an excellent presentation. Over to you, Dr. Barathi, sir, for your.
Thank you, Shrikant, for your excellent presentation. I take up your last sentence. Cold chain is like a gold chain. So respect and give the same respect as you give respect to your gold chain. Maintain it as you maintain your gold chain.
That was Sir's quote only, actually.
So good. Second important point which Shrikant has covered is you should always be ready to manage anaphylaxis. That is the most important take-home message. Before starting your OPD, even I'm doing it every day in my clinic, I ensure that emergency tray is kept on the refrigerator which is inside my OPD. I ask my staff to check everything on the emergency tray. You never know, once in your lifetime you are likely to face this anaphylaxis, and then you cannot say I do not have adrenaline in my hospital. Not acceptable at any level. It is as good as doing a murder of somebody. So always keep in mind, your emergency tray is a must before starting your immunization. Shrikant, your initial slides are little repetition what he has already covered. And what you have covered is ideal vaccination center at a bigger place. So what if I would have been talking on this topic, what I am doing or you are supposed to do in your clinic? If you've seen the COVID vaccination centers, it was made mandatory to have 3 chambers. Now in our OPD, it is not possible to have 3 separate chambers like that. Let us have 2 chambers. One is waiting area and another is your OPD. The waiting area can be divided into 2 parts. One is observation center and another is waiting area for the other people who have come for the vaccination. You should have adequate space. Preferably, you can have a separate timing for your vaccination, that early morning 2 hours and evening 2 hours, so that other sick patients will not come during your vaccination timing. As we have already discussed, you should have a good vaccine storage facility in the form of PBVR or ILR. If not, then double door vaccine is domestic refrigerator. Then you should have one person who is in charge of your vaccine record system. Because in a bigger setup, they have vaccine storage policy. And there are n number of things which have to be recorded at the PSC level or at the state level. In your hospital, you should have one sister who is your vaccination in charge sister. She will keep all the records, which vaccines they are using, what is the expiry date, whether she has checked your refrigerator twice in a day, whether the temperature maintained is properly, whether there is an FIFO, that is first in, first out policy. The vaccines which are kept first should be used first. The vaccine which has got early expiry should be used first. These simple things can be managed very well. Then your reception counter, you should have the receptionist who is counseling the parents. What vaccines, what is the cost, what type of an vaccine, what are the vaccines to be given. At the same time, she is screening the patient whether he is fit for a vaccination. Somebody is running 100 degrees temperature. There is no point in giving vaccine because you do not know whether he is suffering from viral fever or a typhoid fever or a gastroenteritis or something. So screening of the patient in your OPD is a must in your ideal setup. So waiting room should have receptionist for information. You can display vaccine information sheets. You can have standees related to your vaccine. Your counselor is counseling the patients. If you have an RMO or a sister, she is screening the patient fitness at examination level. Then you have, you can also discuss with them some side effects which are commonly associated. Like suppose somebody is giving a wholesale pertussis vaccine. The staff can say that the child is likely to get fever, the pain at the site of the injection. Don't worry, it is going to last for 24 hours to 48 hours. So that is a confidence building in the relatives. Otherwise, they will say, no, painless wala vaccine then. Without knowing anything about the vaccine, we start saying there is a painless vaccine. There is no painless vaccine in the world. Either it is less pain or it is with pain. So that information should be properly given. Now, once the patient comes in your OPD, you have a doctor, a table, and an examination table, which is mandatory. Then what the previous speaker has talked about the cold chain and how you should keep the vaccine. Rather, I will say how to set up a refrigerator in your clinic. Your refrigerator should be at one corner, which is away from the window and the door, not coming in direct contact with the sunlight. Then from all the walls, you should keep a distance of 10 centimeters. And from the floor, minimum 5 centimeters for adequate aeration so that there is no excessive heating of your refrigerator. The efficiency of the refrigerator will go down. Then, as you have rightly said, the vaccines which you have kept inside should be kept 5 centimeters away from each other. Again, from the adequate aeration. You should have good number of ice packs in the freezer compartment, good number of bottles in your door, and good number of water bottles at the bottom, where to increase the cool mass. This is very important. Twice in a day, temperature of the refrigerator must be maintained. You should have a battery backup, which is mandatory, either in the form of generator or in the form of inverter. So that in case of an electricity failure, which is a common phenomenon of the few days, you should have a good battery backup at least lasting for 4 hours. You should have the alternative arrangements ready in case you have an electricity failure. You can shift your vaccine to Dr. Maradhe's clinic, which is say half a kilometer away. But he has got his electricity, he has got the backup and everything. So that plan B should be ready with you. Then another most important thing in an ideal vaccination clinic, whatever vaccine you are giving, mention it on your case sheet. The name of the vaccine, the brand of the vaccine, the manufacturing date of the vaccine, the expiry date of the vaccine must be mentioned. The stickers are given with almost all the vaccines. Now you put the sticker. The patient may go to Bangalore. He will say, there is no record of what vaccine has been given. Only the sign is in front of the DPT, DTAP, IPV, AHE, but what vaccine? Then the other doctor will never know which is the second dose to be given. So you should have, not for only your safety purpose, this documentation is very, very important. Now you have given the vaccine, you have talked to the patient, you have counseled them, you have told them about the side effects. Patient goes in the observation area. And this is very important because maximum AFI will occur in first 30 minutes. I myself have come across one few vasovagal attacks. Adolescent girl, if you give an injection, she will say, chakkar aa rahi hai, chakkar aa rahi hai. Nothing happens. Just ask her to lay down on your examination table for about 5-10 minutes. Just monitor the pulse. With the vasovagal, you have severe bradycardia, the low volume pulse. After say 5 minutes, the volume of the pulse increases, the heart rate increases. She said, now I'm feeling well. Give her a glass of water. Spend 15 minutes with that patient. Don't be in a hurry. Arey, kuch nahi hota, bahar jaake baith. If something goes wrong, then you are responsible for everything. The third important thing which you have properly elaborated, the emergency tray for managing anaphylaxis. Everybody must know how to manage anaphylaxis. Everybody should be able to give intramuscular adrenaline. For 10 kg, 0.1, maximum 0.5. It should be ready in your brain. There is no harm in giving one extra dose of adrenaline, nothing happens. If there is any doubt, give one adrenaline. Child is not going to die because of your adrenaline, might die of anaphylaxis. You should have an oxygen supply ready. You should have a cylinder in your OPD. I'm sure 80% of the private practitioners who are having only OPD will not have oxygen cylinder in their clinic. And that is not acceptable. You should have IV sets, you should have oxygen cylinders, you should have IV fluids, you should have adrenaline. In America, adrenaline pen is available for 5,000 rupees. That is called as Epitope. So they just give this Epitope injection and we have to spend 15 rupees to get one adrenaline. So everything must be ready in your clinic, whether you face the patients of anaphylaxis or not. So if you have everything, that constitutes ideal vaccination center. So every time you start your vaccination center, try to remind yourself that 3 layers of ideal vaccination clinic is ready in my clinic. You should train your staff also how to manage anaphylaxis, how to pick up anaphylaxis, how to pick up vasovagal. And they are very important. Well done, Shrikant. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for those words of wisdom.
Thank you, sir.
Lot to learn and unlearn from this session. I really feel like saying thanks to Gangolia sir for making this Tuesday text for very clinical points important for clinical practitioners. Thanks, Renu, Dr. Gangolia sir. It was indeed excellent session. For next proceedings, I just hand over mic to my co-coordinator.
Dr.
I think
Manjusha, can I
Jayant
just come in?
Joshi sir wants to add
Yeah.
something. Yes, sir.
So
Jayant sir,
I would
please.
like to, of course, congratulate all the speakers because they have done an excellent presentation. But my special congratulations are to Dr. Sanjay Marathi. I think you can,
Thank you, sir.
from his inputs and from his speeches, you can figure out how sincere and how passionate he is towards the cause of vaccinology. And I think all of us must introspect. I think even now I have 2 clinics. Another clinic does not have a very effective oxygen center. So I think, you know what, you don't really, problems can come at any emergency hour and you must be prepared. We only feel comfortable. Vaccination is a very easy business. If you are going through a bad luck phase and you will end up with a problem, you will have it. So I think what he has given is excellent overview. The information about cold chain, I think I have read his article also in a book about cold chain. So I have already read him, but I think thanks Dr. Sanjay for excellent inputs because these are very important for all the audience. Of course, the presentations were equally good also. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jayan sir, for your kind words.
Yes.
But then I think they are all important points.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I
Dr.
hand over
Manjusha,
to
madam. Thank you, Dr. Marathi sir. We had learned many things today from you, and I welcome Dr. Jayant Joshi sir because he is our second judge. In his short CV, I would like to say, sir is senior consultant, pediatrician at Dinanath Mangeshkar Hospital and Sahyadri Hospital, Pune. He is CIP EB member of Maha IP and Maharashtra in 2016, 18, and 20. He is Vice Chairperson of IAP ID Chapter 2021. He is Vice President IAP Respiratory Chapter 21-22 and he is national trainer for various modules. So I welcome Dr. Jayant Joshi, sir. With this CV of sir, I would like to invite our next speaker from West Zone, Dr. Amit Chauhan. Dr. Amit, he is a consultant pediatrician at Kolhapur. He is fellowship in pediatric intensive critical care. So totally different topic given to him now is vaccination schedule is good vaccination schedule in government and private as well. So I welcome Dr. Amit Chauhan.
Thank
Dr.
you, ma'am.
Amit? Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Is it good, ma'am?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Now that this bogie came to Kolhapur, I am Dr. Amit Chauhan presenting the very topic. Vaccination schedule is good, government and private.
Double click.
Okay, ma'am. I would like to give this in the form of overview. IAP UPI schedule similarities and differences, key updates and major changes in IAP recommendations, and new vaccine introductions. As you know, the private vaccination is according to the Advisory Committee of Vaccine and Immunization Practice, that is ACVIP of IAP, reviewed an IAP recommendation of 2020 and 21. They always issue recommendation on existing and new vaccinations, depending on how newer content in all over the world. And in government schedule as a started as an EPI, that is extended program of immunization, in 1978. He shifted to UIP in 1985 and evolved over and introduced in 2005 under NRHM, that is National Rural Health Mission. Introduction of new vaccines slowly is in phased manner up to present vaccine schedule according to each state. Now this is how I compare. There is a similarity and differences between both the vaccines. At the birth, BCG, OPV, and hepatitis B vaccine is included in both the schedules. In IAP, BCG before discharge, OPV as soon as possible, and hepatitis B within 24 hours. As UIP, some have missed vaccination as a home delivery and something. So they extended this schedule as soon as possible or up to 1 year of age. OPV within 15 days, but hepatitis B should be given within the 24 hours of the delivery. At this, I will compare both the schedule in the 6, 10, and 14 weeks. In the IAP schedule, there is a hexavalent vaccine which contains the cellular or acellular pertussis and DPT. Then injectable polio vaccine, HIV vaccine, hepatitis B vaccine that contains the hexavalent vaccine. Along with the rotavirus, there are two options in IAP, that is RV1 2 doses schedule, while the for other vaccines there are 3 doses schedule, and all three, that is PCV 1, 2, 3 doses given at the interval of 6, 10, and 14 weeks. While in the UIP there are some differences. In the UIP there is a pentavalent vaccine available, which includes only cellular vaccines along with the HIV vaccine and hepatitis B vaccine. While for the IPV, they have introduced the fractional dose of IPV, that is 0.1 ml intradermal given on the right arm. It is included on the 6 weeks and 14 weeks. Okay, and they have also given the OPV in the UIP schedule, which is not in the IIP schedule, and the PCV is also given at the 6 weeks and 14 weeks interval. Okay, those patients who have received pentavalent vaccine and not received IP vaccine in private, they should be referred to the UIP or government facilities for the fractional dose of IPV, as injectable polio vaccine is mandatory nowadays. It is found that along with the OPV fractional dose given at an interval of 6 weeks, at an interval of 8 weeks, that is 6 weeks and 14 weeks, it is equally effective as an IAP schedule. There is one more schedule was introduced, that one injectable intramuscular dose was introduced as 14 weeks, but this fractional dose is more effective compared to the previous dose. At the 6 months, that is UIP introduced influenza vaccine, 2 doses given after 6 months of age, one month, that is 4 weeks apart. Previously, there was different doses, that is 0.25 ml before 2 years of age and 0.5 ml after 2 years of age. But now DGCA approved the 0.5 ml to all the patients above 6 months of age, and the booster dose should be given every year pre-monsoon till the 5 years of age, as these vaccines are not included in the UIP schedule. From 6 months to 9 months, typhoid conjugate vaccine, there is a no booster doses is recommended for them. At the 9 months of age, after 9 months completed, in IAP schedule, there is a MMR dose, which includes mumps, measles, and rubella. While at UIP schedule, that at 9 to 12 months till 5 years of age, MR dose is included, which does not include mumps. While the PCV booster is introduced at the 9 months of age. So in UIP schedule, for the PCV, 2+1, that is 6 weeks, 14 weeks, and booster at the 9 months of age. In 9 to 12 months of age, there is a live vaccine introduced in UIP in endemic areas only, that is JE1. While in API schedule, 3 different vaccines are given, out of which 2 are killed vaccines, which are after 1 year, while 1 is live vaccine, which are recommended at the 9 to 12 months. After 12 months completed, hepatitis A, if a single dose is okay, if it is a live attenuated vaccine. But if it is a killed vaccine, then it should be repeated at the age of 19 months, that is after 6 months of primary dose. At 15 months, in IAP schedule, MMR second dose, varicella first dose, and the PCV booster is recommended. While at the UIP schedule, between 16 to 24 months, only MR second dose is included nowadays. At the 16 to 18 months, cellular or acellular DPT booster first dose, that is influenza H influenza booster first, and IPV first dose is introduced. While in UIP schedule, DPT booster, OPV booster, and Japanese encephalitis second dose is included. After 19 months, as already we have discussed, hepatitis A2 should be given if it is inactivated vaccines, while varicella second dose can be given at the 9 months, that is after 3 to 6 months of first dose. If you are given at the 15 months, then you can given at the 18 to 19 months, while these are not included in UIP. At the 4 to 6 months, cellular or acellular DPT booster dose, along with newly introduced second booster of IPV, and MMR third dose is included, while in UIP, there is a DPT second booster dose. In 10 to 12 years of age, Tdap is introduced, even if a Tdap is given as a first booster dose, that should be given at the 10 to 12 months, while the HPV dose is also should be given, which will be discussed in the special or adolescent vaccination. While in the UIP schedule, TT dose is given at the age of 10 years and 16 years of age. These are the few updates in the recent recommendation. Polio immunization, a booster dose of IPV is recommended at the 4 to 6 years. The importance of IPV in immunization schedule is re-emphasized. So each and every child should have a injectable polio vaccine. Inactivated influenza vaccine, as we have discussed, it universal dose, that is 0.5 ml, that is 15 microgram above 6 months of age. Varicella second dose should be given 3 to 6 months after the first dose. There are new vaccines recommended introduction in the new, that is acellular DTP plus IPV combination, that is Tetramex, quadrivalent conjugate meningococcal vaccine, that is a Menveo, and monoclonal antibody cocktail for post-exposure prophylaxis or rabies, that is TwinRab, and conjugated typhoid vaccine, that is TypeVV, and 10-valent pneumococcal conjugate, that is Pneumococcal. Approve of use of Mino vaccine in 2 to 55 years of age. The use of this vaccine only in the special situation will be discussed later. Approve the use of TypeV above 6 months up to 45 years. Single dose, no booster dose is recommended. Monoclonal antibodies, rabies, already rabies shield is in the market. New vaccine, that is TwinRab, is introduced, and it is recommended over the rabies immunoglobulin in the management of category 3 bites. Approve of tetraximur for the second DPT IPV at the 4 to 6 years of age. Approve use of Pneumococcal till 2 years of 3+1 schedule. Booster dose as 12 to 18 months. and it should not be given beyond the 2 years of age. So in here, whatever IAP schedule, it is running in the practicing pediatrician clinics in hospital in urban areas, in a few private rural hospitals. That UIP schedule is practiced in Anganwadi, PSE, PSU, RH, district hospital, and all the municipal corporation hospitals. IAP, it is a paid, and few vaccines are very expensive, while UIP is completely free. Single dose vial are used in IAP or in private clinics, while in government it is a multi-dose. That is the main crux. Why they are not giving all the vaccination in UIP is because of economic constraint. As all the vaccines are available in the multi-dose, probably we will hope that all the vaccines will be given in the UIP schedule only. IIP is mostly urban population, so probably private sector has a less coverage, while yet a coverage more of the vaccine. But in IIP covers all the vaccination preventable disease. Even they have recommendation over for the special situations, but they are not covering all the vaccination in the UIP schedule. Take home message: advise parents to follow vaccination, which is convenient, affordable, reachable to them. No child should be deprived of any vaccination, as each and every child is precious. Thank you.
Very well, excellent presentation, Dr. Amit Chavan sir. I would request Dr. Jain Joshi sir for his expert comment on this topic. Dr.
Yeah,
Joshi
so
sir.
I think, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes, sir.
Okay, so congratulations, Dr. Amit, for a very excellent overview of all the vaccinations. And I think we are all familiar with all these vaccination schedules because this is a schedule which we follow in day-to-day practice. He has already highlighted the most important differences between the government schedule and the private schedule. I would like to just bring about 2 or 3 important points. Number one, the IAP schedule is basically a schedule which is a more comprehensive scientific schedule in which you get the maximum immunity out of a vaccine. And that's why it is a schedule based on the recommendations on various international studies and publications. The government vaccination schedule at the moment, though it is trying to grow in covering majority of the vaccines, at the moment, because of various reasons, like maybe could be a fund constraint or the availability of vaccine, these are just optimally required adequate schedules. So I think you should be, now as you say, I will start with the last line of Dr. Amit's talk. Whatever vaccine, wherever you want to take, you take, but you must take the vaccination. I think in that process, people earlier used to have a belief that government stocks are under inferior quality and the people there are not qualified to give it, and then there could be some problem and all those things. Now, what is happening is that, as Dr. Hemant Gangulia said in the beginning, said that now most of the vaccinations are going to be coming under the cover of Indradhanush, that is the government sector. And very shortly, maybe I would not say 5 years down the line, probably almost all vaccines would be in the government setup. Now, there are going to be genuine situations in our community. We talk about all these new vaccines, pneumococcal vaccine, HIV vaccine, but we just get out of our clinic premise and just drive, say, about 15-20 kilometers out of your city limits, and you will realize that the coverage of this vaccination is abysmal. And that is the reason why we are only centered, as Dr. Amit mentioned, these are basically for urban setting. Now, IAP schedule does not really mean that it is only meant for urban setting, but yes, it is definitely meant for a private setup. Now, the question comes is what to do if a patient is confronted. Now, it goes without saying that we all know, we all practice vaccination, and we all know that vaccination constitutes our bread and butter. So I think there is no point in just leaving out on the business. If someone comes to you, there is no reason why you should say, no, you go to the government center and you will get a free vaccine there. If there are constraints on the patient side, they go on their own. So all the vaccines which are available in the government are equally available in private sector. So first and foremost thing, unless and until there is a genuine problem from the patient's end, where there can be economic constraint or some other reason, there is no need to refer the patient for the government setup. Now, coming to whether you should follow the government schedule in your private schedule, like for example, pneumococcal vaccine. Now, pneumococcal vaccine, we know the burden of pneumococcal disease. Pneumonia constitutes still about 28 to 30% of all the under 5 mortality. So it goes without saying that we must have a very, very effective vaccine, which is going to take care of that under 5 mortality, which is caused because of pneumonia. Now, if there are two schedules recommended differently, like ACVIP recommends a different schedule and the government has only a 3-dose schedule, the question is what to take. So I think all the private pediatricians must understand that you should follow the ACVIP schedule. The government schedule is mainly for the government programmers because there are different reasons why the government is not able to provide vaccine in that significant amount. Take an example of the injectable polio vaccine. Now, Dr. Amit mentioned about the importance of injectable polio vaccine as a very important vaccine. All over the world, the developed world has changed. Now, oral polio is practically stopped there, and they are only relying on injectable polio vaccine. Now, there is a definite constraint of availability of injectable polio vaccine in India. So the government has taken a via media approach by taking a fractionated dose so that at least one vial will be used for 5 children. And that is the reason why probably we are using it for more. Of course, there is a scientific data to prove that even 0.1 ml of an injectable polio vaccine given intradermally will cause more immunogenicity or even equal immunogenicity as what you would receive with the injectable polio vaccine. So I think what Dr. Amit has presented just now are the schedules in front of you, but it is going to be your wisdom. Suppose many times we come across patients in our OPD who are partially vaccinated, who have not completed their schedule. So I think what I seen in my practice is that the government vaccination protocols go in a very rigid manner. Suppose someone goes there at 4 months and says that my one vaccination means will you give it? The government authorities will not oblige. So these patients ultimately land with you. Now, in that cases, I think you must know what are the mandatory vaccines which the child has missed out at the government center, and we must try to emphasize. Now, in my own setup, what I do is, if I see any child who has taken the primary vaccination at the government center, I do tell them, I encourage them, I tell them, okay, go ahead and please take it there. But I suggest on taking one extra dose of injectable polio vaccine, and I suggest on taking them a dose of typhoid conjugate vaccine, because these two are not covered. Influenza vaccine in urban settlement is possible, but as you know, if the patient is very poor, I of course offer the vaccine. But if the patient is very poor, I would rather tell them, because it's an expensive vaccine, influenza vaccine. But the things which he does not get in a government setup, it is our responsibility to make the parents aware that at least those vaccines should be taken in our setup. So in principle, we should not follow the schedule what the government has suggested. We must ensure that even if a child is partially vaccinated at the government level, it is our responsibility to complete the vaccination for that child. And that is the only thing, what is the crux of this particular thing. And I think ACVIP is also coming with new recommendations, new suggestions. He mentioned about new vaccines also. Rabies is a very important problem. But again, there also, the schedule in government is an intradermal route. I think government takes these approaches because of the economic constraints primarily. So you must understand that they have done all the studies, but when it comes to us, we should be giving the vaccine in the full dose. So we need not follow the government schedule. Incidentally, there are some vaccines like Japanese encephalitis vaccine, which is available in the government setup, is not available to us. So in our private setup, if you have to use a Japanese encephalitis vaccine, we have to use it after 1 year only. So I think there are some things which you can actually overlook about the MR vaccine also. It is always better if money is not a big constraint. MMR is always better than MR. So you are giving an additional protection from mumps also. So there are various things. The debate will go on. But the most important take-home message is that it is our responsibility to see that any child which comes to us is completely vaccinated in the basic minimum required protocol. Whatever is not given at the government level, it is our responsibility that we complete it at our level. Whatever be the cost, you explain to them, they let them make a budget and do it accordingly. Thank you very much, Amit. It was a very good talk, and thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir, Dr. Jain sir. Very well said that we have to cover each and every child, whether it is a government schedule or it's a private schedule. So moving on to our next speaker from Vidarbha, Dr. Bhalchandra Phalke. I would like to invite him. He is assistant professor at Medical College Chandrapur and he is MD Pediatrics. He will be talking on immunization in special situations plus adolescent vaccination. Dr. Bhalchandra.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My topic for today is vaccination in special situation plus adolescent vaccination. Many a times we think that the low birth weight babies and preterm babies are very low birth weight, and we don't give vaccines at proper time. Low birth weight babies and preterm babies should be vaccinated as per the schedule according to the chronological age and irrespective of the birth weight or period of gestation. BCG and birth dose of OPV should be given at the time of birth in all low birth weight babies and preterm babies. In case of hepatitis B, if the baby is weighing less than 2 kg, then the birth dose of hepatitis B vaccine should be delayed till the age of 1 month as there is suboptimal immune response. But if the baby is less than 2 kg and born to hepatitis B positive mother, then both the vaccine as the immunoglobulin should be given at the time of birth. Now for the patients on steroids, if the patient is receiving prednisone in the daily dose of more than 20 milligram or more than 2 milligram in child more than 10 kilo for more than 14 days, then in these cases no live vaccines should be given. If at all we have to give the live vaccines, then it should be given after the 1 month period. Then if the patients are on alternate steroid therapy, inhaled steroids or topical steroids or local injectable steroids, there are no such contraindications. Children on immunosuppressive therapy like chemotherapy or radiotherapy should not be given live vaccines till the completion of therapy. And if you have to give, it should be given after the 6 months of the therapy. Then vaccination in immunocompromised children. If there is severe immunodeficiency, no live vaccines are given. In mild to moderate, we have to monitor the CD4 count and accordingly we have to give. Inactivated vaccines are safe, but sometimes the responses may be decreased in case of immunocompromised children if the inactivated vaccines are given. Some vaccines like hepatitis B vaccine, we have to give the higher dose and more number of doses also. Then again, we have to check the antibody titers regularly. Regular boosters may be needed in these immunocompromised children. Household contacts should be fully immunized, including the varicella and influenza, to reduce the risk of transmission to the immunocompromised children. Suppose the household contacts receives vaccines like OPV or rotavirus, then this household contacts should not come in contact with these immunocompromised children for at least 2 weeks. Now we will see for primary immunodeficiency. If there is B lymphocyte deficiency, no live vaccine is indicated. For T lymphocyte deficiency like cell-mediated or humoral deficiency, all live vaccines are contraindicated. In complement deficiency, none of the vaccine is contraindicated. And if there is phagocytic function disorders, then live bacterial vaccines are contraindicated. Then we will see in vaccination in HIV infection. All killed vaccines we can routinely give as in healthy child. But in asymptomatic HIV child, vaccination we follow as per as the normal child, but except for the OPV and the rotavirus. We have to add the polysaccharide pneumococcal vaccine to the schedule. This polysaccharide pneumo vaccine we have to give 2 months after the routine pneumococcal conjugate vaccine, and booster dose is given at the age of 5 years, after 5 years. Then symptomatic HIV child, no BCG is given. MMR is not given if the CD4 count is less than 15%. Then 4 doses of hepatitis B vaccine we have to give at 0, 1 to 6 months, and double dose is advised. Varicella vaccine is not given if the CD4 count is less than 15% in child less than 8 years, or CD4 count is less than 200 if the child is more than 8 years. Then asplenia or hyposplenia. Asplenia or hypersplenia results in sickle cell disease patient, or if radiation therapy is given for spleen. In this patient of asplenia or hyposplenia, pneumococcal vaccine, Hib vaccine, meningococcal vaccine, and typhoid vaccine is advised in addition to all routine vaccines, because these patients are prone for infection with serious bacterial infections. Then if you are planning for splenectomy, then vaccination should be initiated 2 weeks prior to splenectomy, because we will get a superior immunological response. In case of emergency splenectomy, vaccination should be done after 2 weeks after splenectomy, because superior functional antibody response is seen if the vaccination is done 2 weeks after splenectomy, emergency splenectomy. Then patients, if having some bleeding disorders, then subcutaneous routes should be preferred, and vaccination should be considered after the factor replacement therapy. Small gauze needle should be used and pressure should be applied at the vaccination site. Many a times, some antibiotic products are given to children, and in this case, we have to be extra cautious. If a child has received some antibiotic containing products like IVIG, then inactivated vaccines can be safely administered, but the live vaccines like MMR and varicella should be avoided. These live vaccines, if given, then we have to follow some interval, and that interval should is also depends on the amount of antibodies we have given and type of products we have administered. Like in case of post-COVID MISC, if the IVIG is given in the dose of 1 gram per kg, then the live vaccine should be given after the 11 month. You have to keep the 11-month interval between that. Antibody containing products should be avoided for 2 weeks after these vaccinations. If the live vaccines are given, then antibody containing product we should not give it for at least 2 weeks. Oral typhoid vaccines, OPV vaccine, live attenuated influenza vaccine, and yellow fever vaccine can be given at any time if the child has received antibody containing products. Rotavirus vaccine should be avoided for 6 weeks. Then adolescent vaccination, it is divided into 4 categories. Adolescent vaccines, Tdap is given at 10 years. HPV vaccine at 10 to 12 years, 3 doses are given, 0, 1 to 2 months and 6 months. Then catch-up vaccinations, MMR 2 doses are given 4 to 8 weeks interval. Hepatitis B vaccine 3 doses are given at 0, 1 and 6 months. Hepatitis A vaccine 2 doses 0 to 6 months. Typhoid vaccine 1 dose every 3rd year, and varicella vaccine 2 doses at 4 to 8 weeks interval. Then some special circumstances, if influenza were to given to adolescent child yearly, and Japanese encephalitis we can catch up to 15 years. Pneumococcal polysaccharide vaccines 2 doses 5 years apart, and rabies vaccine 0, 3, 7, 14 and 28 days. For if there is some recommendation, meningococcal vaccine doses if you have to give 4 to 8 weeks apart. Yellow fever vaccine 10 days before the travel, and oral cholera vaccine 2 doses 1 week apart. So this is sufficient for the time being. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bhalchandra sir, for your wonderful presentation. I would invite Dr. Jayan Joshi sir for his expert comment on this topic.
Dr. Bhalchandra, it was a very good talk. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And you have almost covered everything. And I think most of the situations like immunodeficiency and all these diseases are not very commonly seen by us. But I think he has touched upon a very important. We have recently been through a pandemic of COVID. And this is one important point you must remember, that if a child has suffered from MISC post-COVID, there has to be a significant gap. If the child has received IVIG, then the vaccination should be deferred for at least 11 months as regard to live vaccines. He has mentioned about various precautions. I think it was a very comprehensive talk, and he has covered most of the points. So I probably would not give any additional inputs. Most of the points he has covered, we had discussed it earlier also. And these vaccination schedules, about the adolescent vaccine also, I think the live like influenza vaccine or your oral corona vaccine, which are not relevant at the moment, the oral vaccine, they need not be really continued. And yellow fever vaccine doesn't come in the domain of a private practitioner. So all those vaccines, though you have tabulated them as a list, I think from a practitioner's point of view, the most relevant vaccines, I think we all must be aware about a situation. If a child who is immunization naive reaches you at around 7 years of age or 10 years of age. And then that is the time, suppose you have to start a vaccination for that child. There can be some people, some unfortunate children who probably have missed out on all the immunizations till the age of 10 years, 11 years. And that is the time which we have to think of what are the minimum vaccines. So that is how you should talk about. Then there, I think that one addition could have been put in this particular slide, that besides the adolescent vaccination, deferred vaccination or missed vaccination. So that also should be a separate chart. So there, I think we make some vaccinations mandatory. Some are not required because rotavirus and all have no significance beyond a particular age. If a child has already suffered from diseases like chickenpox or other diseases before, then there is no point in giving that vaccine for a catch-up vaccination at 12 years of age. But I think what you must know is that hepatitis B vaccine, typhoid vaccine, and 1 dose of injectable and a Tdap vaccine is very, very important. Now, even injectable polio vaccine is not recommended beyond the age of 6 years. But Tdap vaccine and a DPT vaccine, now they say that DPT vaccine is very important because the immunity for these 3 antigens is gradually weaning. And as a result of that, more and more cases of adult pertussis are found out. The incidence of adult pertussis is quite shocking. If you talk to your physician colleagues, I think any chronic cough more than 3 weeks, probably they assume it to be adult pertussis. And if one is affording a test like a multiplex PCR, you can even diagnose a pertussis and take a cold course of azithromycin. But otherwise, the trend is to give azithromycin for any chronic cough. The whole idea is that because there is a lot of adult pertussis, which probably reflected because of a poor vaccination when these adults were children. So I think as a pediatrician, it is our duty to ensure that now the scope of our practice is till 18 years of age. All of you must have seen that the parents are quite sincere in coming to you till about 5 years of age. Thereafter, because even the children grow, the regular problems often go away, the children are in a position to eat properly. So the doctor is not considered, the pediatrician is not considered very often. But whenever you get an opportunity, for any reason, suppose the child who is seen by you 5 years back has come to you, always make it a point to inquire that what is the update on immunization. So many people feel that after 2 years, so many people even ask me in the clinic, when you start giving those vaccinations, sometimes you feel that they are quite annoyed that you give every month one vaccine. So sometimes, with a little sarcastic, they said, "Ki, kiti divas salnar hai ajune, kiti divas dekha tumhala." So then I very patiently explained to them that these are important because the child will have low immunity at a very young age. And that's why these vaccines are recommended. As the child will grow, he probably will have an innate immunity and these things will not be required. But suppose this child comes at a later date, you must emphasize that these are the vaccines which should be taken every year or at a certain gap of that year. So even for a catch-up vaccination schedule, you must be very, very proactive in terms of counseling with your parents. Overall, excellent presentation, Dr. Balchandra. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your expert comments. Now, our last talk of this session, our speaker is from North Zone. I would like to invite Dr. Swati Jain Karnawat. She is Associate Professor, SMBT Medical College, Nashik, and she would like to talk. She would be presenting us COVID vaccination. We all know about it, but let us hear something new from her. Dr. Swati, please welcome.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Sonali, ma'am. Good evening, all the delegates and the dignitaries. Myself, Dr. Swati Jain Karnawat, and topic for my today's talk is COVID vaccination. And so in this talk, I will discuss the need of COVID vaccines, objective of COVID vaccination in children, authorized COVID-19 vaccines, recommendation in children, adverse effect in journey of the COVID vaccination in India. So the need of COVID vaccination, vaccines can help us to end this pandemic. Vaccines are safe. Vaccine security system ensure that the vaccine delivered to us are as safe as possible. Vaccines are effective in preventing the serious illness, ICU admission, and death because of the COVID infection. Stopping a pandemic requires using all the tools available. So it is our responsibility to get vaccinated as soon as possible to halt the pandemic. Then the objective of COVID vaccination in children. Vaccine help prevent the death, hospitalization, and serious illness from COVID-19 even in the children. It helps in the reduction of the transmission. It helps in the prevention of the COVID complication like MIS-C, long COVID. There are so many psychosocial issues arising because of the prolonged school closure in this pandemic. There is no correlation between the school reopening and the COVID vaccination. But after the COVID vaccination, the parents will be more confident in sending their ward to the schools. And it will COVID vaccination of the children add in the herd immunity. So there are different authorized COVID-19 vaccine in different countries. In India, available are the Covaxin, Covishield, Zycop D, and Corbevax. Out of these four, the Covaxin, Zycop D, and Corbevax are recommended in the children. Then Pfizer, BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine and Moderna vaccine. These both are the mRNA-based vaccine and recommended in children, but these two are not available in India. So I will not discuss in detail. Then the Oxford or AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, it comes with the brand name of Covishield. It is a viral vector vaccine. In India, it is manufactured by the Serum Institute of India Private Limited. It is not recommended in children. It is recommended for individual 18 years or old. It requires 2 doses 4 to 12 weeks apart. Efficacy is about 90%. There is an increased risk of thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome seen with the use of this vaccine. Then the Covaxin. It is an inactivated COVID-19 vaccine. It is the India's first indigenously developed vaccine. It is developed by the Bharat Biotech in collaboration with the ICMR and NIV. Initially, it was recommended for the individual 18 years or the older. Later on, it is also recommended for children. It also requires the 2 doses 4 weeks apart. Efficacy of this vaccine is around about 80%. And now the DCGI has granted approval of Covaxin for the kids 6 to 12 years of age. In the Corbevax, it is a protein subunit COVID-19 vaccine which contains the RBD antigen of the SARS-CoV-2. It is manufactured by the Biological E Limited, and India has approved this vaccine for the emergency use. It is recommended for the individual 12 years or older. It requires 2 doses 4 weeks apart. Efficacy of the Corbevax is more than 90%. So it is efficacy-wise, it is better than the Covishield and Covaxin. And the titer of the neutralizing antibody is more with the Corbevax as compared with the Covishield. And the National Drug Controller has approved this vaccine for the children above 5 years of age. Then the Zycop D, it is manufactured by the Iap Schedule. It is the only COVID-19 DNA vaccine. And the government of India has granted emergency use of this vaccine in August. And it is recommended for the individual 12 years or old. Efficacy is 67% against the symptomatic infection. This is the only COVID vaccine which is given by the intradermal route. It requires 2 doses 28 days apart. And there is a painless needle-free injector available which directly delivers the vaccine intradermally. In the adverse effect following vaccination, most of them are the non-specific, and these are pain, warmth, tenderness, and itching at injection sites, fever with chills, fatigue, headache, muscle ache, joint pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. Some patient may develop the flu-like symptoms like sore throat, running nose, cough, cold, abdominal pain. Myocarditis is a rare side effect which is seen with the mRNA vaccine, especially in the young adult and the older adolescent. Then BITTP is vaccine-induced thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura. It is rare but life-threatening complication of adenovectored COVID vaccine. There is a theoretical risk of vaccine triggering MIS-C in children. But post-vaccination surveillance does not show any case of vaccine-induced MIS-C in children. Then the journey of COVID vaccination in India. COVID vaccination started in India on 16 January. In first step, doctors, healthcare workers, frontline workers were covered. Then it is started in the phased manner. Gradually, it is extended to the other individual up to 18 years of the age. Then in 3rd January 2022, the COVID vaccination started for the children. Initially, it was started for the children between 15 to 18 years old. Then gradually it is extended to the 12 to 15 years old. And then recently on 26th of April, it is recommended for the children more than 16 years of the age. And the Corbevax are the Covaxin are the two vaccines which are recommended. Then the vaccination in a special situation, COVID-19 vaccine are recommended for the pregnant women and those considering pregnancy and lactating mothers. All are inactivated vaccines, so immunodeficiency is not contraindication. In children with acute illness, the vaccination may be postponed till recovery. To conclude, all authorized COVID-19 vaccine are safe and effective. The best COVID vaccine is the one available to you, and we cannot get COVID-19 infection from the vaccines. Thank you.
Thank you, Swati, for such a wonderful presentation. I would request our judge, Dr. Jain Joshi sir, for his expert comments.
I think I must congratulate Dr. Swati for a very good overview of COVID vaccines. I think we all are familiar with that, but it's such a crisp presentation that in just one 10 minutes presentation, you get an overall idea about the status of COVID vaccines. I think she has highlighted most of the points. I think because of the pandemic, I think all of us are nowadays more aware about this particular problem of COVID. And that's why most of these details are already known to us. Now, the contentious issue is whether children should be given vaccination. But as a policy, we all must remember that though there are two issues. Number one, we still don't know what is the fate of COVID. We still don't know what is in store for the next couple of years. And I think one thing that has proved over last 1 year by the vaccination is that definitely the serious morbidities or mortality is going to be prevented by vaccine. The COVID vaccine does not claim to prevent infection in totality, but at least it ensures that the person will not suffer from a serious disease, which in itself is an assuring thing. So at the moment, since the government is handling the COVID vaccination program, and though a lot of patients who come to our clinics ask us if the vaccine would be available at our clinic, it would be our desire to participate with the government in contributing to this social service also. But I think as of now, it seems that the government is taken the responsibility of vaccination. Of late, one worrying factor is that the vaccination rates are going down dramatically in the children category. 12 to 18 people were taking because I think they were all college going students and they were more concerned. But there is a little apathy in terms of vaccinating the age group. And now we see even the newspaper reports that the vaccination rates are falling down. So anyone who comes to us for any other vaccination, any child who comes to us, any adolescent who is eligible to receive the COVID vaccine, we must encourage them to receive the vaccine. As of now, as Dr. Swati mentioned, there are only two vaccines available, Covaxin and Corbevax probably will come very shortly. And as probably the schedule will get unfolded further by the government, a time is not far that all children will be eligible to receive this vaccine. Of course, it will all depend upon how the COVID story unfolds over the next 2 years. I think we are now there was a fear of fourth wave, but fortunately it seems that the incidence is getting less again, the infectivity is getting down. So let's hope for the best. But one thing is there, that this COVID vaccine has done wonders in this particular pandemic. I think we must applaud our scientists and we must feel proud to be an Indian, because India has been a vaccine capital in this pandemic. And not only that, India has been supporting almost 75 countries outside. So without taking any personal financial interest, the government has selflessly contributed to the welfare of humanity. And that is the one reason for which I think India is earning a lot of goodwill internationally also. So one thing all of us have agreed, all of us have taken the vaccine. I think there is no doubt that COVID vaccine should be given to children whenever the opportunity arises. Of course, the norms must be followed. If a child is positive, then the deferment of vaccination would be done by about, say, 3 months or so. So as per the protocol, and most of these protocols which are being followed, they are followed after proper trials. So even the government is taking all steps very cautiously. They are not in a real hurry now. And now, since the incidence is fairly under control, the government is not pushing too many vaccines at a time because there is no real alarming urgency. So we must know that COVID vaccines are mandatory. We are all testimony to the fact that we are here talking to each other after 2 years of COVID pandemic goes to prove that the vaccine has worked. So probably there should be no doubt in our mind And any children, any child, any adolescent who comes to us for routine vaccination, for routine consultation, please make it a point to inquire whether they have received. There are still some parents in cities who have their queries. Some articles come in the newspaper saying that a child has suffered from disease, so that itself is a vaccine. So all these things are not scientifically proven. When the Omicron wave came, the third wave came, people were saying that getting Omicron is something like getting a vaccine booster. But these are all talks which are done in the air without any scientific research. So as and when arises, even as doctors also, as a precautionary third dose, it is mandatory on our part to receive that vaccine, because at any point of time, as a frontline worker, we must be sufficiently protected ourselves to tackle our patients. So I think there should be no confusion about the utility of COVID vaccine. As and when the protocols will arise, as and when the recommendations will come, as and when ACVIP will give us guidelines. Of course, COVID is still not under the purview of ACVIP, but whatever the government suggested is we must cooperate and comply with them, and we must ensure and we must convince our parents also to give their children the vaccination, even though the COVID pandemic is on the decline. Thank you very much. It was really a pleasure. Thank you, Dr. Gangolia. It was a privilege to be with Dr. Sanjay Marathe, who is a real brain in vaccinology, and all the presentations were excellent. I really appreciate the MAHA-IAP for this initiative. It's a brilliant initiative, because you know what? I realize that I think Dr. Sanjay will agree with me that when we started giving presentations, maybe I would say 25 years back, Sanjay, then probably there was no one to guide us like this. Now look at, these, all the presenters today, though they are, they have done such a good effort. So we all started with a scratch, and then we made mistakes, and then someone commented, someone criticized, and then we learned through that. So it's an excellent initiative. I applaud MAHA-IAP for taking this initiative, and it will boost confidence for all the young speakers. They will be tempted to make presentations in time. It was, Dr. Sonali, I must appreciate your initiative to take a lead, to have a trial run. That was very important, because some people did not follow the time schedule. So I had to suggest to prune the timing slightly. I had to make some small modifications. I gave some tips about the presentation. So I think, and all of them have complied very well. So I think Dr. Sanjay will also agree that the presentations were top class, and they have followed to the time. And it is a very good venture. Takes different topics like respiratory infectious disease. We can involve more people. And then that is how we are going to create a young team who can be good presenters at the conference level in the future also. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be with you all. And I'll leave it to Dr. Gangolia and Dr. Manjusha for the further comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your appreciation. But let me tell you all, the both judges had taken a hard, means they had given a very much time for the speakers also, because they had guided all the time to the speakers along with us. Thank you very much, sir. Now we had learned many of the things about the vaccination, that cold chain is a gold chain, and documentation of the vaccination is most important. So we have our our medical legal expert with us, our own MAHA-IAP president, Dr. Gangolia sir. So I would invite Dr. Renu madam to ask a question related to medical legal, but because we are running short of time, please madam, I invite you to ask a question related to medical.
Sure. As we know it, sir is a medical legal expert, so I take this opportunity to ask sir, about this vaccination. Are there any medical legal issues have you gone through, or associated issues are there? And also one thing nowadays is coming out, whether a written consent is needed for the vaccination. Can you please highlight on this thing?
Thank you, Renu, madam. At the outset, let me congratulate all the speakers who have done a wonderful job, as well as the experts. They were just at the best. The question which you asked, medical legal safety while immunization, is itself a topic, and it's a very vast topic to be discussed. For just a reminder, this DIP, IAP courses, I have my talk recorded on the DIP platform of the medical legal safety while immunization. But now that the question you have asked, I will try to be as brief as possible. Certain 5 or 6 points which are very important. Probably the strong message is an ampule of adrenaline a day keeps the worries of anaphylaxis away. This is my tagline of my presentation of the anaphylaxis whenever I present in my medical legal talks. So that one has to remember. The second thing what arises, probably this would have made the 5 minutes talk in this series of 6 talks, but because of time constraint, all these things, we could not manage that. But still the question remains the consent. And the consent, whenever the consent comes, it's a controversial or debatable issue, because I recently attended use of medicine in pediatrics TOT at Bangalore. And when there are 12 topics of 12 sessions of 12 hours were discussed, one of them was vaccinology, and it was given by the renowned expert Dr. Kasi sir. But because of time constraint, there was some issue which I could not raise there. But then the first slide what stated, the immunization is the implied consent. So implied consent means patient coming for immunization, so that doesn't require any express consent or the written consent. That was the first slide. But as medicine is a dynamic, laws are also dynamic. There is no such case issue pending in the court of law where something has occurred due to immunization and the case has gone to the court of law. If anything happens, as such, the adverse events are very less in immunization practice, but still it occurs. So whenever the case occurs and it goes to the court of law, the basic line is immunization is an invasive procedure. Any invasive procedure in our hospital practice or medical practice requires the express consent, that is a written consent. So here many people may differ in the opinion, but the best part is that one has to take the consent. जब तक इंडिया में जो कुछ नहीं होता है तो सबको लगता है कुछ नहीं है, और जब भी वो फंस जाता है, बैड लक वो दिन रहेगा उसका, त्या दिवशी बॅड लक असेल तो बऱ्यापैकी फसून जातो. तर आता ते इंडिव्हिज्युअल चॉईस आहे whether to take or not. But the point is, the immunization being an invasive procedure, the consent has to be taken. And we do have vaccination consent form, but we have still that group of UMP faculties. I have stressed my points on that. Coming after that, because one more thing I want to say, every OPD should have oxygen cylinder. It's illustrated in one of the slide. Why? The reason I will mention. See, the anaphylactic reaction to the vaccines are the known complications. That is a fact. Everybody knows. But the point is, if you are not, after getting vaccination and the anaphylaxis occurred, you don't have infrastructure in your clinic to resuscitate the measures. And if during Panchanama, it is seen that has not been done, doing not resuscitative measures, having any infrastructure in a clinic for resuscitative measures while giving vaccination is a gross negligence. But at the same time, after vaccination, even death occurs. But if your document shows that you have taken appropriate measures of the resuscitative, whatever is there, the first is adrenaline only, that has to be given IM, everybody should know, and other things comes of the resuscitative measure. If it is documented in any way, if death occurs, that is not a gross negligence, because this point is very important. Therefore, everybody should keep this emergency tray or emergency resuscitative measures in their clinics. And not after one of our experts said in one clinic he is not having, so please sir, keep that. If anything happens, it will be a problematic. So now the problem is, so it is an individual choice and how to take the consent and not take. Definitely I will share this talk slides also in our group, as well as I will share my consent form also. But because I see Dr. Marathe sir is one of the committee member of ACVIP committee, the point which I mentioned in our group also, faculty group also, whether this committee can bring out the guidelines stating clear-cut message that immunization doesn't require written consent. It is an implied consent which is there, because the defense against this was given how the government institution can run the giving vaccination program in their field without taking the consent. That was the defense was taken. But court of law will never agree if there is no written consent for the invasive procedure. Because this case has not happened, so we don't know what will the result. But I'm sure if this case goes to court of law first will ask the written consent, because it's an invasive procedure. So I will recommend, I will suggest, or I will request our Dr. Marathi sir, who is one of the committee members, to come out with a guideline, strict guideline, with a clear-cut message that immunization doesn't require a written consent. It is an implied consent, which is important. It is the vaccination given by the implied consent, and this document should be legally valid in the police station as well as court of law when any case occurs. So this is the initiative which can ACVIP can be taken, and also by the IAP. This is one point. And second, these are the gross or the adverse events occurring. The second point, which is very important, I want to mention, because there was one of the slide which was present in the vaccinology regarding use of expired vaccine by mistake. एक्सपायर्ड वैक्सीन दे दिया और पेशंट को बाद में फिर आपलं त्याच्यावरती आपण लेबल पण लावलं आणि रिअलाइज नाही झालं. So already it being said, we have to check, we have to keep the vaccine, the staff trained for it. Also, we should write. Dr. Marathi sir said on the we should write everything we should write. So that, but many times in the busy OPD it has happened. So that question was asked in that whether the complaint can be made against the expired vaccine. So there, so I have recently had 3 months back in one of the pediatrician of Raigad district where the expired vaccine was given and the patient filed a police complaint immediately because he suffered something illness. तसं म्हणतात ना, कावला बसला की फांदी तुटली, त्या प्रकारे ते वॅक्सिन झालं आणि काहीतरी आजार झालं आणि त्याने ही attributed that illness to the vaccine. So how to come out? This is a practical tip which I will give for you. Suppose it should not happen. We should not give expired vaccine. The important thing is that तर जर पोलीस स्टेशनला कंप्लेंट झाल्यानंतर त्यांनी मला फोन केला, विचारलं काय करावं. सी इफ बाय चान्स बाय मिस्टेक इज गिवन, प्लीज सेक्युअर द document from the manufacturing company or the manufacturer regarding the use of expired vaccine. That document also I will share on the group. Everybody should know that. And as well as on CDC website, there is a mention, clear-cut mention of the expired vaccine if used, what to be done in case of live vaccine, what should be done in the attenuated vaccine, so that everything is done. The point is, if by chance expired vaccine is given, there it doesn't give any serious side effects. Probably potency may decrease, but that too not after a certain period. But then if expired vaccine is given, we have to accept it. Then we have to follow the guidelines which are given, how to follow if the regarding live and the regarding attenuated vaccine. The one point is that live vaccine should be given, can be repeated dose, but after 4 weeks. So that is to be followed. So these things are there. So we should get the literature, secure the literature, and just show them. And when the literature was got by the email, I will not name the company from where it is and which vaccine was given, but the literature, immediately they responded, we got the letter, and that letter was produced in police station, and then everything got settled. At the same time, we should ask the child to follow up for the next 7 days to see the patient every day. And something illness that he should be managed. And that if and again counseling goes. So these things do happen. So I think so in vaccine, in a short, immunization being an invasive procedure, written consent should be taken. I think so Dr. Marathi sir will take up this issue in their committee. So then can come out with some strict guidelines which will be having legal validity in police station and the court of law. That will help. And there's more thing to say about it, but I will stop here and I will share my this PDF in our group. Everybody can go through. It doesn't have any copyright. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Thank you, Gangolia sir.
Excellent point.
Thank you,
Excellent.
Gangolia sir. Because we are short of time, so chat box questions we can't take all the things. But one of the questions there is written is that from documentation from factory to stockist to send to IAP local group for awareness. Is it necessary, Gangolia sir? Because nowadays many patients are bringing injection direct by itself. So my question to you is whether we, as we discussed, the injection should not be given, the immunization should not be given. But something if happens because the patient brought injection, then whether the doctor is held responsible. And I want to ask that whether the IAP local body should ban that stock. Does the IAP body president or secretary have that much of power to ban that stockist? I want to answer of both questions, sir.
A tricky question to answer, but see, already said by our Dr. Sanjay Marathi sir, this we should not follow and we should not do. But still, if the patient brings, because they are the doctors only who bring the vaccines from the stockist. They are the MRs only, medical representative only, they bring the vaccines from there. So the best thing is that just, I think so, TK, let them bring from the stockist to check the vaccine, whatever what you want to give, check what you want to get, what they want. And that probably fits into the Iap schedule, that everything we have to check it. Now the questions remain whether if you are giving that vaccine and something happens, then who is responsible? So that is only one part that we can mention in our OPD paper or whatever paper, whatever you are following, this vaccine was brought by this person and it was brought at this time. The process of bringing, I am not aware of that. That is the totally responsible of that patient, of the relatives who has brought it. And this I have been said and explained the importance of the cold chain to me in my own language, and take the signature of that patient or the relatives with your signing, with the date, with the time, everything mentioned on that paper. And probably in this case, it will be better that you just keep a Xerox copy of this with you also. So it will just help if something happens, you can just tell them. But if the dates are okay, if there is everything, vaccine is okay, you can give. But at the same time, taking the precaution, this is the way to go out. तर थोडक्यात कसं असतं, बऱ्याच वेळा लॉजिकली आपल्याला त्याच्यामध्ये काही जुगाड काढावं लागतं. जुगाड काढून आपलं द बेस्ट थिंग इज द वन लाइन इज वी हॅव टू सेल्फ गार्ड अवर स्किन, वी हॅव टू सेल्फ गार्ड अवर इंटरेस्ट. वी आर इम्पॉर्टंट, नॉट पेशंट्स. Patients are there important, but we have to safeguard in this era of consumerism. आणि मला वाटतं की honestly आणि transparently आपण बोललो ना तर पेशंट लोक ऐकतात. मला अजूनही वाटतं त्यांचा विश्वास असतो, पण आपण किती ट्रान्सपरन्सी बोलतो, किती हॉनेस्टीने बोलतो, that plays a very important role with the communication skill.
Can I just come in?
Yes.
Comment? I think this is a very contentious issue. Most of the MRs and most of the doctors of homeopaths or whatever they are referring patients with, they would like to bring the vaccine. Now, I will tell you what I do. First and foremost thing, I really don't give too much of encouragement for this policy. I mean, like first, if they say, sir, आम्ही आणलं का, मी पहिल्यांदा लक्षच देत नाही. Then second thing, they say, sir, मी घेऊन येऊ का? Then I tell them that, look, I think a very famous line you must remember, की तुम्ही हॉटेलला जाऊन घरचा डबा खाता का. So that is the only thing that enough is to explain the patients understand what is the motive behind that. And then you can tell them, well, there are processes involved, how we manage the cold chain. Of course, we may not have time to speak to everyone. And at the end of it, you are having that right of refusing to give a vaccine which is brought from outside. No one is forcing you to give a vaccination. You can simply refuse, saying that I'm not going to give this vaccine. Like how Dr. Sanjay said, that someone had got that MMR vaccine in a pocket, and then he just crossed that vaccine. So we are fully entitled to refuse a vaccine if you have even 1% iota of doubt about the authenticity of that. So it is always an attempt. We need not look for people's convenience. The people who are trying to save 200, 300 rupees with the vaccine at our place, next evening go to a restaurant and spend 2,000 rupees over a dinner. So we need not really worry about that too much of time. And I think we should not put our particular problem at stake, jeopardy. We should be very clear about the policy. Anything which we are confident about cold chain maintenance, we will give that vaccine only. That is the only thing. We need not really oblige all the MRs and all the junior doctors. It is not our people. Let them take wherever they want to take. That's what I suggest. Thank you.
Can I add a point?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
I will just add one line. It is an individual choice, and at least
Correct.
मला वाटतं इंडिव्हिज्युअल चॉईस असताना आपण राईट ऑफ रिफ्युजल असतो आपल्याला, आणि आपल्याला तसं काही त्यांना देऊन काय आपल्याला पैसे मिळणार नाहीये, तर कशावर द्यायचंच नाही ना. डोंट गिव्ह ओनली and let it. Yes.
I absolutely agree. We have every right to refuse. Another thing, what I do, suppose somebody has got a vaccine, I take a signature of the father or the mother. I have brought this vaccine at my own risk. I will be responsible for any side effect of this vaccine. And then I will make them sign on that paper, which is a document. Suppose they will say that this vaccine was given, you have only signed on that. So these are two things. Another thing which I am practicing it for last 25 years, how to avoid giving expired vaccine. I never ask my staff to prepare the vaccine. That is first.
Perfect.
Then I ask which vaccines you are supposed to get. For example, say Prevnar. I will ask my staff to take out Prevnar from the fridge. Then I said, loudly say the name of the vaccine and the expiry date. So everybody will listen to what expiry date she has said. I will write down that expiry date on the paper, will take that vaccine, confirm the expiry date. It has helped us in last 25 years not to give a single vaccine which was expired. Because 3 times we are confirming. Once the staff will say, the relatives will also listen to that. I will write it and confirm it before giving. And prepare the vaccine yourself. Don't ask staff to prepare it. And don't say, "Arey, tu kasa ka vaccine dila hai? Tula itkai samjhat nahi ka." And second most important thing, don't ask them to bring all 3 vaccines together on your table. I'm sure you will be using hepatitis B ampule as a diluent and put that hepatitis B into PCV vaccine. Prepare your vaccine one at a time. Keep that vaccine separately, then prepare the second. All this can be avoided if you can spend 5 minutes for that vaccination. That is all what is it.
Thank you, respected judges and sir. But the unanswered question is whether the IAP local OBs had the means power to ban that particular stockist if the repeated things are happening.
You can ban the stockists because you have got the power of so many pediatricians. If they
Yes.
will ban the stockists, then he will come forward and say, "I will not give it to anybody."
Okay, sir.
So
Thank
legally,
you.
if it
Thank
is
you.
not there,
Yes.
but then professionally you have the power.
Yes. Yes.
Professionally.
So that is
Can
difficult.
I
to
interrupt? Since
Yes.
there is one
Yeah,
more
yeah.
one question in the chat box related to legal thing, little out of the way. I'll just read it out. What would you advise and document medico-legally for child safety if, in case, parents refuses vaccine at private or government setup, being a child health protection right, whether it's to be reported to a certain child health protection legal body somewhere?
In our country, it is required.
This
It's a
in our
voluntary
country
thing.
never happened.
Whom you are, see, this documentation is not our responsibility.
Yeah.
If somebody refuses, it is his responsibility.
Even in countries like United States, there are small groups like Amish population or other groups. They still are anti-vaccines.
Yes, very big group.
The cults,
Very big.
the cults are everywhere. And I think, you know what, even the American federal government could not really create any law, because at the end of the day, vaccination is a voluntary activity.
Absolutely.
It cannot be taken as something which is by rule. So if someone is not taking a vaccine, your job is to counsel, your job is to give information, your job is to convince them to take the vaccine. But it is like, you can't, you can take the horse to the water, but can't make it drink. So it's something like that. If someone is hell-bent on not taking the vaccine, you can't force someone to take it.
To add one more thing, while vaccination, you can give the leaflets to them. Leaflets देऊन टाका त्यांना सांगा ह्याच्या भले ते इंग्लिश मध्ये असू दे, हे इंग्लिश मध्ये इंजेक्शन बद्दल माहिती आहे, ह्याच्यात सर्व काही गोष्टी लिहिल्या आहेत, हे तुम्ही वाचू शकता. Giving leaflets, attaching in the file, it also helps. And secondly, one question I will ask Dr. Marathi sir. आणि बऱ्याच वेळा असं अजूनही होतं आपल्याकडे, पेशंट खूप शांत. माझ्याकडे एक पेशंट आलं होतं, म्हणजे that was suppose the expiry date was suppose this is month of May. So that vaccine मध्ये काय लिहिलं होतं, ऑगस्ट 22 एक्सपायरी लिहिलं होतं. तर त्यांनी दिल्यानंतर मला काय आर्ग्यू केलं माहितीये का, नाही ऑगस्ट नाही, 1 महिना जुलै लिहिलं होतं. आपने बहुत ये अगले महीने में एक्सपायर होने वाला वो दिया, आपने नया क्यों नहीं दिया हमको, नया मैन्युफैक्चरिंग डेट वाला कहीं दिया. So that is also sometimes the issue is occur. So that has to be explained properly.
It is already explained.
One thing
So
I want to
if you
ask to
see-
Marathi sir is that, one thing I want to, suppose the expiry date is written on that August 2022, whether it can be used in August 2022 or not.
Yes, it has been made very clear in the question answer book also that if the expiry is August 22, can be used till the last date of August. There is nothing wrong in that. And there is nothing like new vaccine or the old vaccine. The potency which is expected or the vaccine efficacy which is expected of that vial is maintained till 31st August. Not that on the 1st September it is going to cause some major side effect, but the vaccine manufacturers will keep safety of 6 months. So next 6 months, nothing is going to happen. But don't be unnecessarily in trouble.
Yes.
If it says August, see, my policy in my clinic, any vaccine which is getting expired in next 2 months, I asked it stockist to change and give me the new one. Why to keep that vaccine with us and create more problems in talking to the relatives? I said, you take this vaccine and give me the best one, the one with the longer expiry. It is his problem to tackle with that short expiry.
Yes, yes. So same point I want to mention that whenever is August 20, though means everything
legally you are protected
can
up
be
to
used
31st August.
But to avoid this confusion, let us don't use only. And what Marathi sir said absolutely right. 2 months expire आ गया ना, वापस कर दो स्टॉकिस्ट को, आपको उसका पैसा मिल जाता है. वो कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं होता है उसका.
Oh, he will replace it. No,
he will replace it 100% without
100%. That
Yes.
stockist is depending on you. He doesn't go anywhere. He has to replace it. Don't worry.
But still that document, if you Marathi sir, you can share na कि August 92 में expiry वाला 31st.
Yes,
Please
yes.
share.
I can share that question answer on that.
Yes, yes, yes.
We have
There is a
already
book.
taken up this issue.
Yes.
Dr. Hemant, there is a book on beautiful book which was released last year at I think Hyderabad Vaccicon. That clears everything.
FAQ on immunization.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Thank you
you
very much.
Yes, the same book.
Respected
Perfect.
judges. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes.
Thank you, sir. I would like to request Renu madam for vote of thanks.
Yeah, it was a very nice presentation by all the speakers on behalf of Women's Committee MahaIP and MahaIP itself. I would like to thank our respected judges, Dr. Sanjay Marathi sir and Dr. Jayan Joshi sir for their expert guidance for all the speakers in last 15 days and taking the efforts for the presentation they had presented to you, modifying it and guiding them so that they could fluently do their best today. So thank you very much, sir. Also, I would like to thank our MMC observers who are present today, Dr. Kulkarni sir and Dr. Ahir sir from Nashik. And I would like to congratulate all the speakers, 6 speakers today who presented very excellently and to the point and within time, which is our crux, that 5 minutes rapid fire in which you give the expert pearls today that you all 6 of you have given. So congratulations to all of you, and we would like to see you more on this platform, and best wishes for your next ventures. Today's program was charted out and chalked out very minutely and detailedly by Dr. Sonali Shirbhate, co-chairman of our Women's Committee MahaAP, and along with her, Dr. Manjusha Sherkar, who is the Marathwada Zonal Coordinator. We thank both of them very much from the bottom of the heart that they have taken the efforts to select the speakers right from the topics, as well as to give the presenters every minutest details with the help of our digital team, Pallavi madam and Dr. Neha madam, who is the part of this program of digital team, as well as making flyers, Dr. Vishal Raut sir, who always helps us for this program. And last but not the least, our own Dr. Hemant Gangolia sir and Dr. Amol Pawar sir. Amol Pawar sir, we have missed him today. He is a very lively person. So I congratulate you, sir, to give us this platform, and we could successfully complete this 4th episode of our Tuesday Text program. And all the delegates who have joined today, I would like to congratulate them for joining and thankful to them for presenting till the end of this session, and also being interactive by putting the questions. And also our EP members, Dr. Dabhadkar sir and Dr. Bhandarkar sir, and all of you, thank you so much for joining here. And I hope we meet in the next 21st June for the 5th episode of this Tuesday Text. Yeah.
Just one, if I may just be a little greedy, I would say, Dr. Hemant, I must appreciate this activity done by MahaIP. I would be definitely keen to participate again if there is a similar symposium on the respiratory things, something like an asthma or something. I would be very keen to participate as an expert, and I think it will be a very fantastic session, because today also we had a session, last Sunday also Dr. Dabadkar himself was instrumental in
yeah.
arranging one asthma dialogue. So I think I would be,
विचारू
I
का
would be
मध्ये
very
आपण
keen.
खूप सुंदर बोललात सर. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I would be very keen to come as an expert for the respiratory activity if you have planned in future.
Sure,
Thank
sir.
you so much
Sure,
for the
sir.
opportunity
Sure, sir.
and greetings and good night, everyone. Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah.
Jain sir, the respect and request, I have given totally free hand to these two ladies to decide
Yes, yes.
Okay.
what
No,
is
but
who are the
I think
speakers, and they
no,
decide.
no.
Just they convey and update us. That's the only
No, no,
job.
in your presence, my request will be addressed to you.
No, sir.
He is the president, isn't he?
We are having excellent president and secretary of our
Sir, whatever we
Maharashtra.
are doing, but these two are totally guiding us. So
Yeah.
Excellent.
actually, they are the backbones.
Yeah, sure. And
Thank you.
sir,
Thank you very
Jain Joshi sir, we will definitely have the session and we will let you know, because we
Sure.
are doing the theme-based thing.
Yes.
Last one was infectious diseases and this one was
Yes.
immunization vaccination. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I will
Thank
be
you
very
so much.
happy to be in the audience when Dr. Jain Joshi is speaking on asthma.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Rainy season is on. Asthma and LRTI
Yeah.
on.
Will be on, yes.
Yes.
You can coincide with rainy season.
Sure, sure.
No, thank you so much.
This is a success story. Destination has come, but still passengers are not going out.